well, you feel a mother is not supposed to bury her child. You always think you should go first.
As mothers, Wendy Benjamin,
Day by day, it's something always to remind you of your child.
Latasha Kavanaugh,
We're living without our children.
and Tammy Davis
Sometimes it get hard trying to talk about it. It really do.
live with the reality most parents fear to imagine.
It's some shoes that you, as a mother, I promise you shouldn't want to walk in.
All three recently buried young sons, victims to the growing problem of homicide in Shreveport.
It hurts. It's only been 9 months since we lost Jordan, and you can see I can't help but to cry whenever I talk about him or think about him.
While the circumstances surrounding the deaths of Jordan Davis in December 2017, Quincy Randall in October 2016, and Latrique Benjamin in May 2016 differ greatly, two threads connect the heartache of these mothers. No one's been arrested for killing their sons, and since day one, they felt all but ignored by the Shreveport Police Department.
They never called me to this day and told me my son was dead.
The detective in charge of your son's case
Never
called?
Never.
And police didn't call you?
Never. I never received a call saying my son was killed. I found out through a friend.
We found out from a phone call. Someone woke me up and told me to go to the hospital because Jordan had been shot. And that was like, by the time I got there, my baby had already passed, and he had been gone for hours because the police never bothered to contact me.
All three women shared a version of the same story.
He was my baby.
Saying it's almost impossible to get any kind of update from the detectives working their sons' cases.
But the detectives don't even much help to solve the crime. They can't tell me that they working on it. You ain't working on it. You don't want to give us a call back. He didn't call me or my husband. They don't even call you back. You have to call them.
If they do no more than call us back and say, this is where we're at with your son's case. This is what's going on. We don't have a suspect right now. Call us back, return our call.
Our children mattered. They may not have mattered to them, but I feel like when you take a job, do your job.
Do your best. Show us some concern.
Show something to the family that you're trying. And we get absolutely nothing.
But during our emotional 45-minute conversation,
I don't imagine it ever gets easy.
It don't.
These mothers said they're not upset with the police officers working the streets of Shreveport.
Everyone that works for Shreveport Police,
It's not bad.
it's not bad. However, it's just a few that are there, and I'm kind of confused as to why they are there. What are they doing?
Instead, their growing frustration lies with the people working at department headquarters.
It starts at the top.
It starts at the top.
The
It starts
top.
at the top.
Police chief
The
Crump.
police chief,
The top.
and it comes all the way down.
After suffering 47 homicides in 2016 and 50 in 2017, Shreveport is on pace to witness 49 homicides in 2018 if the current rate holds. That marks a 71% increase in the city's homicide rate compared to the years 2013, 14, and 15, according to police department reports.
When you ladies hear Chief Crump saying that violent crime is down in Shreveport,
No, it ain't
Yeah,
down.
right.
you don't believe that?
It's not. I ain't got to believe. Pop the TV.
You
Got
hear about
TV
a
on. You
shooting,
hear it on TV, you hear it on the street.
I don't believe it. I don't.
I definitely don't believe it. I never would have thought that I would be sitting in this chair right now, 9 months later, after my child lost his life, and still with no answers.
According to Shreveport police numbers, from January 2016 through August 2018, detectives made arrests or identified unarrestable suspects in 68 of the city's 140 murder or manslaughter cases, a clearance rate of 48%. According to the FBI, the national homicide clearance rate is 64%.
With the number of murders increasing, and the number of arrests remaining low, what message does that send to people in the streets who might have a gun and are considering shooting and killing another person?
It's okay to kill, and you can get away with it.
It's okay to kill. You think that's the message that's being sent in Shreveport right now?
Getting away with it.
While some of their harshest words are reserved for what these women call a lack of leadership inside the SPD,
Well, they need to just fire all of them down there and get some more people in who gonna do the job.
they say people living in the neighborhoods witnessing the deadly wave of violence carry part of the blame as well.
If you know something, tell. We just can't blame the Shreveport Police Department, the detectives, everybody. We all need to help.
Tell it what you see in the neighborhood.
We have to work together, from the police department to the DA's office, to the people in the neighborhoods, to the people that witness. Do your part. Help.
Seeking help and seeking justice in their sons' deaths, all three women told me that along with their husbands, they've tried meeting with Shreveport Police Chief Alan Crump on multiple occasions, but got nowhere, which is basically the same luck I had when I tried getting an interview with him, wanting to ask about the city's homicide rate, the number of unsolved cases, and a growing course of families, especially mothers, who claim they're basically being ignored by his department. Instead, I got a 4-sentence comment by email that didn't answer any of my questions. Still reeling from the shock of her son's murder, Evelina Smith seems to have only two emotions these days: sorrow and anger, and understandably she bounces back and forth between the two moods in just a split second. Now, wanting to capture the raw and real nature of that grief, I took 3 cameras with me when I met Evelina for a walk around the empty lot where her son was murdered.
My son was laying there on the ground.
There in the end of this lot.
Yeah, laying right there on the ground.
You knew it was him before you
I
even
knew.
got back there.
I knew. When I got a chance to go back there, I fell to the ground. It was 3 holes in the ground full of blood. The next day, I came around here early that morning, and I laid on this ground where my son's body was. I laid on this ground
Just to be closer to him.
just to feel something. Right now, I feel like he's not resting. I feel like he's not resting, and he's not gonna rest until they catch these people who did this to him.
It's hard enough, I imagine, for a mother to lose her son, but to hear that he was left here overnight and then found.
He was found by a passerby. They found him 5-something in the morning.
Do you think the folks that live in this neighborhood and others that are seeing so much deadly violence in Shreveport understand the grief a mother goes through?
I don't think so. God placed somebody somewhere to see something that happened to my son.
So you need someone who saw
Yes,
something to speak
yes,
out for your son.
yes.
We hear so often that they're potential witnesses or somebody that knows something, but they don't stand up and tell police. Why do you think that's the case?
Because they don't want to be labeled as a snitch, but that's not snitching.
It's not snitching.
It's not snitching. It's being concerned.
The people watching this tonight that live in these communities, these neighborhoods that are seeing violence, what do they need to know? What can they do to help change this?
They need to speak out, because the violence ain't going to stop until someone stand up and says, enough is enough. I wouldn't wish this on no mother. No mother.
Do you think these people who are pulling the trigger and killing young men even stop to think for a second, what if their mother was in this position that you are now?
They don't care. They don't care.
In a small Catholic cemetery, tucked away in the back corner, a headstone marking the grave of Joshua Lacombe sits alone. It's the final resting place for Evelyn Gilroy's only son.
It's the worst.
While Josh's marker reads, "The battle is over," Evelyn says her fight to see justice served in her son's death is just beginning.
I have a long road to go.
Because she feels prosecutors didn't do their job And as a result, she says the man once suspected of killing her son is free.
He shouldn't be out walking the streets now.
On May 3rd, 2018, Josh was shot and killed behind this home on Vine Street in Shreveport. According to police reports, witnesses heard two men arguing before the sound of gunshots. The first officer arriving on the scene found Josh lying on the ground, not breathing, shot 4 times in his chest, shoulder, and right hand.
We were just in shock.
Shortly after Evelyn got word of Josh's death at her home in South Louisiana, Shreveport police took this man, Herman Woods, into custody. Witnesses saw the 50-year-old homeless man leaving the deadly scene in a hurry. During an interview inside City Jail, Woods admitted shooting Josh, but claimed Josh charged him with a metal stick, according to police reports. But 3 months after his arrest, the case against Woods got dismissed.
The man suspected of killing your son is arrested, but you learn he's not going to be prosecuted for murder. What goes through your mind at that?
Anger.
Evelyn's anger is directed at the district attorney's office. She believes prosecutors presented a weak case to the grand jury, avoiding trial because her 38-year-old son, who struggled with drugs for years, was also living homeless in a tent behind the rundown house where he was killed.
That's totally not true. I think it's very difficult when people are in that kind of pain. They're not necessarily objective. They have a lot of emotion and they look at the evidence one way, but our job is to present the evidence the way it is.
It does seem like it was a fairly easy indictment to obtain, so I do wonder why they didn't obtain it.
Ken Levy is a professor of criminal law at the LSU Law Center in Baton Rouge. I asked him to look at the prosecution's file against Woods. Considering 2 additional pieces of evidence, police saying Woods misled them about where he hid the gun that killed Josh, and the fact investigators never found a metal stick at the scene, Levy isn't sure how Woods avoided murder charges and a trial.
My sense is they had enough evidence to get an indictment, and whether they, again, badly played their hand or deliberately threw the case, I can't tell.
After talking to Evelyn about Josh's case, I wanted to know if other recent murder cases got dismissed. Filing a public records request with the DA's office, I found 8 more over the past 2.5 years. Professor Levy says that is a troubling number.
Take a closer look at the murder cases handled by Stewart's office since January 2016 to the end of July 2018. There have been 39 total cases, according to DA records, and while 8 people have gone to prison, 3 murder convictions, 5 for manslaughter, 9 cases have been dismissed by grand juries, meaning 1 in 4 people arrested for suspicion of murder in Caddo Parish since the beginning of 2016 have walked away free. Professor Levy says that sends a bad message to would-be killers.
9 no true bills.
Correct.
Since the beginning of 2016. Is that an alarming number for people to hear?
No, because I decided in January that I was going to take every homicide to the grand jury. And the reason I did that is I want every case investigated totally.
By handing every murder case over to the grand jury, Stewart says he's eliminating the possibility prosecutors might prejudge a murder suspect's innocence or guilt, letting grand juries decide if a homicide is murder or a justifiable killing.
Our job is not just to get an indictment. I mean, we want to have a prosecutable case that we can have a conviction from.
You say you have to have a prosecutable case
Correct.
to get an indictment. Is the Shreveport Police Department failing to give you prosecutable cases?
Well, I think they do what they do, and we take what they give us, and we try to see if it's a prosecutable case.
Of the 9 no true bills, Stewart says some got dismissed because witnesses told police one story and the grand jury another. In other cases, like the death of Joshua Lacombe, Stewart says the evidence collected by police didn't equal murder in the eyes of the grand jury.
Why did you let him walk?
But Evelyn says after meeting with the prosecutor who took Josh's case to the grand jury,
It was like, this is it. Done deal.
she left the DA's office more convinced than ever that her son was murdered. But due to drugs and homelessness,
He's still a human being.
she said prosecutors didn't care.
I gave him life, and someone took him away.